we are observing Purushotam VRATA. Krishna himself spoke to this month. One second, something is... Again, I will have to open, it seems. There is blurred vision. Krishna said, Aham eter yata loke pratitah purushottama tathayam api lokeshu pratitah purushottama asmai samarpitah sarve ye gunamai samstitah matsadrishyam upagamya masanamadipo bhavet jagat pujyo jagat vandyo maso yam tu bhavishyati sarve masah sakamascha nishkamayam maya krita akamah sarva kamo va yo dhimasam prapujayet karmani bhasmasat kritva mam evaishyati asankshayam kadachin mama bhaktanam aparadeti karnyate purushottam bhaktanam na paradah kadachana ya etasmin mahamuda japa danadi varjita sat karma snan rahita devatirtha dvija dvisha jayante durbaga dushtah para bhagyopajivana na kadachit sukham tesham sapna pishasha shringavat yena ham archito bhaktyamasesmin purushottame dhan putra sukham bhunktva paschat golokavasa bhak. He Ramapati Narayan, just as I am celebrated in this world by the name Purushottam, similarly, this Adimas too will be renowned in the world by the name Purushottam. Now I offer all my qualities to this month. Becoming like me from today onwards, this Adimas is the monarch of all the other months and is the most worshipable and most adored in the world. All other months are Sakama, that is, they will grant worldly desires. This month, however, is Nishkama. Those who worship this month, either without any desires or with all types of desires, will have all their karmas burned. Then they will achieve me. My bhaktas sometimes commit offenses, but in this Purushottam month they will be protected from committing any offense. In this Adimas, those greatly foolish persons who neglect to perform auspicious activities, such as japa, giving in charity, visiting and bathing at the holy places, and who are envious of the dvijas, that is brahmanas, are deemed wicked, unfortunate, and living at the cost of others. Thus, they will not attain a sense of happiness even in their dreams. Conversely, those who are filled with bhakti will take advantage of this Purushottam month to perform archan to me. After enjoying worldly happiness, such as wealth, sons, and so on, they will eventually attain residence in Goloka. And we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahmastava. Yesterday we heard this verse and commentary by disciples of Srila Sai Maharaj, so I will read the verse again and also Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you in this way, as the very soul of all souls, the super soul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary. The gist of this verse is, even the worshippers of your feature as the impersonal Brahman can, if they get the good fortune of devotion to your personal form as Paramatma, Atmatmataya, develop faith in you and attain the status of Shanta Bhaktas, devotees in the rasa of neutrality or passive adoration. So, worship of Paramatma is superior than Brahman. Brahman is first realization of non-dual truth, Advaya Gyan. Nothing is outside. So Brahman is light. Then further, if one goes in realization of this same truth, then he will realize Paramatma, and with Paramatma he can have this Shantarasa. Shantarasa means they will adore, but there will be no active service to him, like in Lila. Only they will adore. And also you have Shantarasa also in Lila, like flute, grass, trees in Vrindavan, in Vaikuntha also many there. They will adore, they will be favorable, and they will wait when Krishna will use them himself. They will not go by their own initiative to serve, but will be always at disposal for Krishna to use them. That is their type of service. So here, if they get good fortune of devotion, then they will get this. Brahma prayed, with devotion they see Krishna as the super soul, who has a charming, handsome personal form that delights the eyes, mind and heart. They realize that Krishna has all the qualities described in the previous verses, and that he is the super soul present in all living entities. This is also described in Bhaktarasamrita Sindhu, Paramatmataya Krishna Jata Shanti Ratir Mata. By understanding that Sri Krishna is the super soul, one attains the neutral stage of devotional service, Shantarati. The question may be raised, means they will see Krishna is present in the heart of every living entity, and they will be able to give respect to all. That is that stage, because they will perceive Krishna is everywhere. So whether those jivas, they are devotees or not devotees, they will respect everyone, because they see they are dwelling place of Krishna. They have that value, and they will see Krishna as present in every heart. So then they will have that first stage of pure devotion, no offense. That is the third verse, Trinada Pisunichana, that verse. The question may be asked, how does this take place? Brahma answers, the spiritual master is like the sun. By studying the Upanishads under him and obtaining his mercy, one attains the proper vision to see Krishna as Paramatma and the knowledge to cross over the ocean of illusion known as material existence. It is stated there in Vedanta Sutra which is explanation of all the Upanishads, the harmony, that it is enough to only do that effort which Gurudev gives you, sadhana, or for realization also you need his grace. Then the answer is given, you need his grace also. You have to do your sadhana, and when Gurudev will be pleased, then he will bless you. Then by his grace, here it is written, one attains the proper vision. Then you will get realization to see Krishna as Paramatma, that level of realization first. And the knowledge to cross over the ocean of illusion known as material existence. When you are devoted to Bhagavan, then you can be rescued, because aversion to him is the cause of being bound. So here, by studying Upanishads, our acharyas, Gauriya acharyas, they generally did not give much importance to study Upanishads. Jiva Goswami explained, because it was necessary to refute that Mayavad explanation, but mostly Gauriya Vaishnava Acharyas, they have commented on Bhagavad Gita, which is Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of all Upanishads. Krishna himself is speaking, so you have many commentaries by Gauriya Vaishnavas on Gita Upanishad. And then, of course, Bhagavatam is topmost. So if one studies Upanishad and gets the mercy of Guru when he is satisfied, then one will get realization, vision. The next verse. I already opened before, but again it refreshes. 1 second. Atmanam evatma taya vijanatam tanaiva jatam nikhilam prapanchitam jnanena bhuyopi cha tat praliyate rajvam aher bhoga bhava bhavo yata. A person who mistakes a rope for a snake becomes fearful, but he then gives up his fear upon realizing that the so-called snake does not exist. Similarly, for those who fail to recognize you as the supreme soul of all souls, the expansive illusory material existence arises, but knowledge of you at once causes it to subside. Commentary by Srila Sai Maharaja's disciples. Those submerged in illusion see material existence as infinite, just as one who is submerged in water sees only water all around him. For example, material scientists and philosophers submerged deep within the ocean of material illusion imagine that material nature extends infinitely in all directions. In fact, the material creation is a finite ocean of ignorance in which foolish living entities, such as material scientists, are unceremoniously dunked by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To be trapped in a world in which all things are born and die is certainly a fearful experience. Everyone trapped in a dark place naturally becomes fearful. Since material life is always covered by the darkness of ignorance, every conditioned soul is fearful. The material nature is not ultimate reality, and thus analysis of matter can never provide answers to ultimate questions. This dark, snake-like existence called material life immediately disappears as soon as one opens his eyes to the bright light of Krishna consciousness. Then, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Do they cross the ocean of Maya or not? Why do you say, as if, Eva, they transcended? Why did the previous verse say that the material world is false or unreal, anrita? Question is first given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Then verses 24 to 25 describe the VRATA theory of the impersonalists who claim that the material world is unreal and the act of transcending the material world is also unreal or false. Because it is unreal, so how you can cross it if it does not exist? So crossing over it is also not existing. That is why the word as if is sarcastically used here in describing the act of transcending the material world. Those who are unaware that the individual spirit soul is full of knowledge and bliss must enter the material realm. It is because of ignorance that no one can understand the true nature of the soul, and because of ignorance the material world of 5 elements was created. The word praliyate implies that by Sankhya, yoga, renunciation, austerity, and devotion, that is bhakti, one attains transcendental wisdom, realizes that the body is different from the soul, and destroys the ocean of material existence. Such a person no longer mistakes a rope for a snake, and with this understanding he is liberated from fear. By ignorance, the material world continues, and by knowing Krishna, the material world ceases. Since you are not seeing it in that. So here one may ask, here it is stated, those who are unaware that the individual spirit soul is full of knowledge and bliss must enter the material realm. And then next is, it is because of ignorance that no one can understand the true nature of the soul. Then how this is harmonized? First he says, individual spirit soul is full of knowledge and bliss. And then, because of ignorance, one cannot understand. If Jiva is full of knowledge, then how ignorance can come? To not know this. Because Satchit Ananda means eternal existence, knowledge principle, Chit, and Ananda, bliss. You have two. One is Krishna, he is Vibhu Satchidananda, unlimited, supreme. Jiva is a small particle of that, is Onu Satchidananda. So when it is stated that Jiva is full of knowledge, it means that he is a conscious being, not covered by mind and body with that limited perception, but is aware, a conscious being by nature, by default. Not covered, the jiva also, but not full knowledge in the sense like Krishna, like internal potency or Krishna, not in that, but conscious, fully conscious, not covered by anything, by nature. But consciousness also means that there is freedom, relative independence is there, how to act. So when jiva misuses her relative independence and wants to enjoy this world instead of wanting to serve Krishna, his eternal master, then at that time, by the will of Krishna, ignorance, this Maya, envelopes her. Then ignorance. Then when you are in ignorance, under the influence of ignorance, then you see like this. You see rope, but you think it is snake, and you are fearful. Like that, when we are in illusion, we think, I will die, and we have fear. But if one realizes who he really is, then he can understand that he was never born and he will never die. And he is existing beyond this material illusion, material energy, beyond. And is not dependent for his own existence, not dependent on this. Material body is dependent on food for maintenance, but soul is not dependent on this. But we are living in ignorance, then we are misidentifying, and then we have fear of dying and suffering and all this. But immediately when one realizes that he is a soul, that fear goes away. It is unfounded fear. Then by all these processes, by gradual processes, 1 second, too much. One can gradually come to devotion, and then one will get transcendental wisdom. Then he will realize body is different from the soul. And you also have to realize that this subtle body, many people, they come up to the point of subtle body and they think that is soul, but it is not. That is also changing. It is more subtle than the gross body, physical body, but it is not soul. And some, they may come to the soul, eternality they realize of the self, but they don't realize their eternal relation with Krishna. Like those who are Brahman realized, they may be liberated, but not fully, because they don't engage themselves in the service of Krishna or Paramatma also. If Paramatma, they will be liberated, but then there is further development from that realization. So, but as long as one is ignorant, that means if he is averse to Krishna, the material world continues. And by knowing Krishna, the material world ceases. It exists, material world, but you will not be illusioned by it, and you will see it as related to Krishna. How it is related to Krishna and how it is meant for him. So you will not be bound by this material world, and there will be no problem for you. The only problem is only one. Our separate desires. Instead of wanting to serve Krishna, we want something else. That is the root cause of all suffering. So this we have to rectify with the help of bona fide Guru, pure devotee, and Shastra, Vedic scripture. Then next verse. Agyana sangyo bhava bandha moksho dvou nama nanyo sta rita gya bhavat ajasra chiti atmani kevale pare vicharyamane tarano iva hani. The conception of material bondage and conception of liberation are both manifestations of ignorance. Being outside the scope of true knowledge, they cease to exist when one correctly understands that the pure spirit soul is distinct from matter and always fully conscious. At that time, bondage and liberation no longer have any significance, just as day and night have no significance from the perspective of the sun. If you are in the sun, then there is no day and night for you. Always the sun. Because the earth is moving around, so we sometimes see sun, sometimes not. So there is day and night. But if you are on sun, there is nothing. So like that, when Jiva is liberated, there is no question of any bondage or liberation for that Jiva. Means Jiva was never bound in the sense that it became material. It's always spiritual. So can never be actually bound, but only we misidentify with this. That is called bondage. Here, commentary. Material bondage is illusion because the living entity actually has no real relationship with the material world. Because of false ego, the conditioned soul identifies himself with matter. But false ego comes when soul becomes averse to Krishna. Then false ego comes and you think you are this matter. Therefore, so-called liberation is simply the giving up of an illusion rather than a release from actual bondage. Yes. Yet, even if we think that the suffering of material illusion is real and that liberation is thus a meaningful release from suffering, the mere absence of material existence is still insignificant compared to the achievement of actual spiritual life, which is the positive eternal reality opposed to the negative illusion of material life. Like you are in debt 2,000 euros. That is giving you tension, anxiety, and when you give that money back and you come to zero, you don't owe anything, then that is relief. But that is also insignificant in comparison if you have positive numbers on your account, positive numbers. So mere liberation from material existence, like jnanis, they get, that is still insignificant in comparison with devotion. That is why you will find there in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami wrote that when one reaches up to bhava stage of devotion, then he will feel this, that liberation is actually nothing, very, very insignificant in comparison with Premananda, that love of Krishna. Ultimately, Krishna consciousness or pure love of Godhead is the only significant, meaningful, and permanent status for every living entity. The darkness of night is caused by the absence of sun. One would not experience night within the sun itself, nor would one experience individual days separated by nights. Similarly, within the pure living entity, there is no material darkness, and thus no experience of liberation from such darkness. When the conditioned soul comes to this platform of pure consciousness, he becomes fit to associate with the Supreme Pure the personality of Godhead himself in the Lord's own abode. So Jiva is never actually like when you are dreaming. It is not that you became that person in dream who is now being beaten by another person. When you wake up, you see it is false. So for yourself now in wakeful state, that thing did not happen. It was not happening, and you are also not released. So if it is not happening to you, then you are not also not released from that problem, because it was not happening to you. So like for Jiva, Jiva never becomes matter and then has to be purified of matter. Jiva is always transcendental to matter. But because of aversion to Krishna, Jiva misidentifies with matter. And then only this illusion is removed. But Jiva was never actually bound in the sense that like some matter entered into her. No, that is not possible. Or that there was some damage to the soul. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is here telling, this verse states that the ideas of material bondage and liberation are both illusions. When one is situated in transcendental knowledge, one knows that they are not different from each other. When one understands that he is a pure spirit soul, different from the external material body, then he is no longer bewildered by the illusion of material bondage and liberation. As day and night do not exist on the sun, material bondage and liberation do not exist when one understands the spiritual truth. Like this example. You are lying on the bed, sleeping, and in dream you see someone is beating you, but it is not actually happening. So when you wake up, that did not release you, because it never happened to you actually. No one beat you. Nothing is on your body. No any that damage is there. So it didn't happen. So you were also not released from the problem because it was not happening to you. But by misidentification, that is happening. So like that, one who is a realized soul, for him, bondage and liberation are not there. Like if you are on sun, there are no days and nights. Next verse. Tvam atmanam param matva param atmanam eva cha. Atma punar bahir mrigya aho gya jana ta gyata. Just see the foolishness of those ignorant persons who consider you to be some separated manifestation of illusion, and who consider the self, which is actually you, to be something else, the material body. Such fools conclude that the Supreme Soul is to be searched for somewhere outside your Supreme Personality. Commentary. Lord Brahma is amazed at the gross ignorance of conditioned souls who consider Lord Krishna's supreme spiritual body to be material. That is, impersonalists, yesterday I was explaining how they understand avatar, that some means that impersonal Brahman takes the form of Krishna. So they think Krishna's body is also made of matter. These impersonalists think like that, and also those who are gross materialists, also they think like that. Krishna was one human being, then he died, so nothing special. So that is gross ignorance of conditioned souls. Ignorant of the spiritual form of the Lord, such persons also consider their own material bodies to be the self. And therefore they conclude that spiritual reality is to be found somewhere beyond the Supreme Personality of Lord Krishna. They don't know that the Krishna is ultimate reality. So because they are in illusion, they are searching for ultimate reality somewhere outside or somewhere else than in Krishna. Sometimes such fools consider Lord Krishna to be one of many individual souls who together constitute a single impersonal spiritual entity. That is also impersonalist. They think actually in reality only one impersonal spiritual entity exists. It is that impersonal Brahman. But then impersonal Brahman, like air, is put in some pots, different pots. So these pots are like individual souls, different, and one of them is Krishna or us. The difference is that Krishna knows he's Brahman, but other conditioned souls do not. But for them, this is also only like one of many illusory individual entities. Once you remove that illusion, then you will see that there is no difference. There is only one spirit, Brahman Satya, Jagat Mithya. Brahman is truth, this world is false, and only this exists. So Krishna is also one of, like that. So that is wrong, that is illusion. That sort of oneness, because they are unable to see spiritual variegatedness. Nitya Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. He is one eternal among many eternals in Upanishad, and he is one conscious or prime conscious among many conscious beings. That is pure consciousness here, means eternals. Eko Bahunam Jobidadati Kaman. That this one chief is fulfilling the desires or maintaining those who are many, means individual souls. And Krishna also says in Gita to Arjuna, there was never a time when I did not exist, or you, or all these kings. So eternal plurality is admitted here. It is not that all these differences only temporary. When you remove this, there is only one entity. No, that is not correct. Krishna is supreme eternal, and we are also eternal, but we are his eternal servants. Unfortunately, such speculators are not inclined to hear from the Lord himself or from the Lord's authorized representatives, such as Lord Brahma. Because they whimsically speculate on the nature of the Supreme, their ultimate result is confusion and ignorance, which they euphemistically describe as the mystery of life. I don't understand this word. Euphemistically means it is not correct ultimate knowledge of the Supreme. Vishana Chakravarti Thakur, Brahma prayed, those who think they are knowledgeable of spiritual things, but are actually not, do not respect your transcendental forum in Braja. As previously mentioned, such persons are simply beating empty husks. They are not getting any rice from that. They think your supreme spiritual body is material, another manifestation of illusion. They consider the self, which is actually you, because the jivas, they are one expansion of Krishna. As we heard, one is Svangsha. Expansions, they are different avatars. Like diamond, part of diamond is diamond. And there is shine of diamond. That is also expansion of diamond, is not inseparable from him. In that sense, not different from him. Like that, different avatars, they are Svangsha parts. Svangsha, his own. And then there is Vibhinangsha, that is Jiva. Krishna says, among the small things, I am Jiva in Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita. So the Jiva is actually Krishna, that Mamai Vangsho Jiva Lokabhuta Sanatana is my part. Non-different from Krishna, but at the same time different also. But it is spiritual, that is the point, because this thing, they consider the self, which is actually you, means that Vibhinangsha, your separated part, to be something material. Actually, our self is not something material. It is spiritual and it is part of Krishna. Thus, they search for that supreme soul elsewhere, because they cannot understand that Krishna is this supreme soul. Or ultimate reality. They think, no, ultimate reality must be formless. So Krishna has a form, and that is material form, so that is not supreme. So we have to search beyond this form. But that is their ignorance, because they are not able to see Krishna as he is, due to lack of devotion. Thus, they search for that supreme soul, or supreme entity, or supreme reality elsewhere. Just see the ignorance of these foolish people. Tomorrow we will further hear, because it is more in this commentary. So the Mayavadis, they think like that. For beginning, it is okay, you can meditate on Krishna to get concentration, or Shiva or Kali or anyone, no problem. Just you meditate, that is anyhow only meditation tool. That is also ignorance. But we cannot meditate on impersonal Brahman now, we are unable, so we take some form and worship that. But that is not ultimate reality. Once you get concentration and you are able to meditate on impersonal Brahman, then you have to reject this. Then you have to meditate on that impersonal, formless. So they search for ultimate reality in somewhere beyond Krishna. That is their foolishness. Once, one Mayavadi came to Slovenia and he wanted to come to our program. So he came to our program from India, pure Mayavadi, classical Mayavadi, Rishikesh, one school there. And then he was practicing in the program, he was listening and taking prasad. Ultimately, he admitted that he goes to all the programs just to get prasad. That was his purpose. So then, just before he was leaving the house, then he said, I am actually not worshipping Kali or Krishna or Shiva or anyone. I'm worshipping Supreme. So that is classical, means I experienced this personally, how they think that Supreme is something above all these forms, something impersonal, that because they are unable to understand about Krishna's real form due to lack of devotion, so they search for ultimate reality, or they think ultimate reality is something beyond Krishna. But in reality it is not. Those who attain that impersonal Supreme, because of Krishna they will have to fall down, because of not admitting that that result they got by the grace of Krishna, not fully by their own effort. So they fall down, and then they realize there is something beyond that. Then if they get enough sukriti and association of pure devotees, then they can also understand that Krishna is ultimate reality, and Brahma Jyoti, which they think is supreme reality, is light coming out from Krishna. So in order to not, like maybe he thought, if I will say this at the beginning, then they will not accept me and I will not get prasad, means I will not get food. So on the door, when he was leaving, that time he said this. So okay, what to do? This is also within Krishna's creation. We may have such misconceptions, but gradually we can, by the grace of Krishna, we can be released from that thing. Tomorrow we'll hear further.